So good morning, everybody. We are getting ready. Hi, Janine, Tamara, Michael, Caroline, Marianne, Joshua. I'm gonna send invitations. I know if you can't, you can dismiss it. Um, let's give some time to Lee to get ready. And we are waiting for Tom and Bob. They are in Zoom right now, but I guess they are both trying to connect right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We are hearing
Oh,
you.
okay. Thank you. You will not hear me now.
Go and spend some peaceful time on your mountain. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We will be starting in a moment. Let me invite to speak Tiffany, Andy, hi, Carol.
Hello. I missed the reading, I'm sure.
We will begin soon.
Oh, I didn't miss it?
No. We,
No,
we
you're
are
right on
late.
time.
We had a situation with a broken glass here in the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
So we had to start a little bit late, but we are getting ready. Well, Lee
For
is
the
getting ready.
perfect reason, I guess.
Exactly, because it has to happen for you to be here since the beginning of the reading.
Something I have to hear
Yeah,
today. And that's
probably.
probably very true because there's a little fence I'm on. So I'm going to get over that fence from this, I know.
Okay,
Well, the
let's
horse will
try
make
the
it
best.
easier, Andy. The horse makes it a lot easier to jump over that fence. I'm really glad that you
Oh, yeah,
found
you're
out
right
today.
about that. Oh, my God. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
huge horse, Elmira. She's huge.
It
Well, she
does look like
was.
a huge horse.
Yes.
That's a
She was also
big, big
pregnant. So was
horse.
I. Yeah.
The horse, too? Wow.
Both of us were pregnant, the horse and I.
4
Hi,
beings
hi,
galloping down the
Andy.
road.
Wow,
Hey,
that's a great picture. Look at that.
It's beautiful.
I
powerful.
love, oh, you look amazing, and I love horses. That's really beautiful.
Thank you.
Today's lesson 105, God's peace and joy are mine. You all make me so happy. I'm so glad you're here today. I can't wait to go through this lesson. I feel like we've all got some blessings heading our way today. I do need to find my plug for my phone. I didn't charge my phone last night. There we go. This will be the last thing. I got the book open and I'm ready to sing. All right. God's peace and joy are mine. God's peace and joy are yours. Today, we will accept God's peace and joy, knowing God's gifts belong to us. And we will try to understand that these gifts increase as we receive God's gift. Peace and joy are not to be likened to the gifts the world can give, in which the giver loses as he gives the gift, and the taker is richer by the giver's loss. Such fear-based egoic gifts of the world are not really gifts. They're bargains made with guilt. The truly given gift entails no loss. It's impossible that one could gain because another loses. The egoic belief that one can gain because another loses implies a limit and an insufficiency. No true gift is given thus, when one believes that one can gain because another loses. Such egoic gifts are but a bid for a more valuable return, a loan with interest to be paid in full, a temporary lending meant to be a pledge of debt to be repaid with more than was received by the recipient who took the gift. This strange distortion of what giving means pervades all levels of the world you see. This strange distortion of what giving is requires some sort of current or future payback in exchange for the supposed gift. This strange distortion strips all meaning from the gifts you give and leaves you with nothing in the gifts you take or even receive, since you will have to repay the gift with full interest. A major learning goal of this course has set, a major learning goal this course has set is to reverse your view of giving so you can truly receive. For giving has become a source of fear, since you believe sacrifice is required by the giver, and so you would avoid giving, which is the only means by which you could truly receive. Accept God's peace and joy, and you'll learn a different way of looking at a gift. God's gifts will never lessen when God's gifts of peace and joy are given away. God's gifts but increase thereby when God's gifts are given away. As heaven's peace and joy intensify when you accept heaven's peace and joy as God's gift to you, so does the joy of your Creator grow when you accept God's joy and peace as yours. True giving is creation. True giving extends the limitless to the unlimited, eternity to timelessness, and love unto itself. True giving adds to all that is fully complete already, not in simple terms of adding more. That implies that the recipient of the gift was less before it was given. True giving adds by letting what cannot contain itself fulfill its creative aim of giving everything it has taken away, securing everything forever for itself. Today, accept God's peace and joy as yours. Let God complete himself as God defines creation. I've lost it.
Completion is the word.
Thanks, Papa. Keep going,
Um,
if you can, because I still haven't found where I
like
lost my spot.
I was. You got it?
Nope.
Okay. In 105.4, as heaven's peace and joy
Thanks.
intensify, when you
True
accept,
giving adds. All right, we can't start off in the middle of the sentence though, because I screwed it up that much. True giving adds to all that is complete already.
I
Not in simple
wasn't
terms.
starting in the
Sorry.
middle of a sentence. I was starting at the beginning of the paragraph, but go ahead.
Oh, well, I didn't want to do that either. Sorry. True giving adds to all that is complete already, not in simple terms of adding more, for that implies the recipient of the gift was less before. True giving adds by letting what cannot contain itself fulfill its creative aim of giving everything that it has away, securing everything forever for itself. Today, accept God's peace and joy as yours. Let God complete himself as God defines completion. You will understand that what completes God must complete God's Son as well. God cannot give through loss. No more can you give through loss. Receive God's gift of joy and peace today, and God will thank you for your gift to God of joy and peace. Today, our practice periods will start a little differently. Begin today by thinking of those brothers who have been denied by you peace and joy that are their right under the equal laws of God. By denying your brother's gifts, you denied that same peace and joy to yourself. And here, to those brothers whom you have denied God's peace and joy, you must return. If you are to claim and regain the peace and joy as your own, you must be willing to drop your grievance and forgive your brother. Think of your enemies a little while, and tell each of your enemies, as he occurs to you, my brother, the peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. Thus you prepare yourself to recognize God's gifts to you, and let your split mind be free of all your ego's beliefs that would prevent success today. Now you are ready to accept the gift of peace and joy that God has given you. Now you are ready to experience the joy and peace that you have denied yourself. Now you can say, God's peace and joy are mine, for you have given God's peace and joy to your brother. And so what you would receive is that same peace and joy returned back to you. You must succeed today in receiving God's peace and joy if you prepare your mind as we suggest. For through your forgiveness you have let all bars to peace and joy be lifted up. What is your inheritance can come to you at last. So tell yourself, God's peace and joy are mine, and close your eyes a while, and let the Holy Spirit's voice assure you that the words you speak are true. Spend your 5 minutes thus with the Holy Spirit, each time you can today. But don't think that less is worthless when you cannot give the Holy Spirit more. At least remember hourly to say the words which call to the Holy Spirit to give you what God wills to give and God wills for you to receive. Determine not to interfere today with what God wills. And if a brother seems to tempt you to deny God's gift to him, then see this perceived attempt as but another chance to let yourself receive the gifts of God as yours. Bless your brother thankfully and say, "My brother, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine." And that is lesson 105. I'm going to read the notes. We'll take a little meditative time, and then we'll have some discussion time. Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being here. With no further ado, God's peace and joy are mine. This lesson states that God's peace and joy are yours whenever you accept them and realize that they belong to you. God's peace and joy are your birthright because God is your source. When God creates, God gives all to all. Nothing is held back when God gives all to all. Yet, if you are to reclaim the peace and joy that is your divine birthright, you must understand that giving and receiving are the same. The fundamental law God states, the fundamental law of God states that to give is to receive. Stephanie Bishop says hi to everybody and that she loves you all. He's got a message from her. This differs radically from the ego's belief that you only give in order to get. Giving is a source of fear to the ego because giving involves the relinquishment of something that once belonged to the giver. In this world of form, when giving something to another, you lose that item. Form cannot be shared. The receiver is the benefactor, and the giver loses what has been given. This egoic mindset that surrounds the act of giving reinforces both parties' belief in lack, limitation, fear, and separation. One party is perceived as being in need of something outside itself to make them happy or to reduce their suffering. The other is asked to sacrifice the little they have to reduce their guilt about having too much. The ego only gives to get. Because of this, the gift is not given without some expectation of repayment or future gain. To the ego, this is not a gift. Instead, it's an advanced payment for something that our ego values more. It's an IOU to be repaid in full. The repayment may not be immediate, but repayment is expected at some later date. The gift may eventually be redeemed for some sort of reward in heaven, but the supposed gift is anticipated to be repaid in full. Often, we give to relieve our own sense of guilt for being more fortunate than another. With egoic gifts, there's always the expectation that your good deed would be repaid in time. Charitable organizations often use guilt as a chief motivating factor in their solicitation campaigns. If they can make you feel guilty because you're more fortunate than another, or make you feel sorry for another, the likelihood of you contributing to their cause is increased. On a practical level, does this mean you should avoid making charitable contributions because it implies and supports the belief in lack and insufficiency in this world? Well, that depends on the content rather than the form that your giving takes. For example, two people contribute $1,000 to a particular organization. The first party believes they're giving money to the needy, yet in reality, what they're giving with their money is confirming their belief in dependency. The second party gives with the intent of giving hope to those who temporarily feel less hope. In this case, the second party's money is intended to give hope, not a misguided belief in another's inadequacy to help themselves. The external form or means is exactly the same, but the intention, the purpose, or the end for giving is radically different. Ideas can be shared. It is the intent behind the giving, not the form of the gift, that determines what is truly given. Are you giving due to your belief about abundance or reducing your own guilt for having too much stuff? Are you giving hope or confirming your belief in dependency? Are you giving because you are guided to do so, or because you will gain some reward off in the distant future? You must look at why you give and not what you give. Content, not form, is what matters. ACIM wants you to understand that you give so you can receive. Be careful about that. Ideas, unlike form, can be shared infinitely, like on a computer where you copy and paste. Copy doesn't get rid of anything. It doesn't destroy it. And to be honest with you, even the cut command that seems like it copies and then gets rid of something, it copies it. It doesn't delete it when it copies it. So we always copy and extend on computers, and the world of our minds, exactly the same way. Our minds' ideas can be shared. I went off from the book there. Sorry. ACIM wants you to understand that you give so that you can receive. Ideas, unlike form, can be shared. So give God's gifts of peace and joy, and they will be received by you. All benefit, and no one is diminished. When you free another from the prison of your mind's own grievances and belief in lack, you free yourself from guarding that same prison. You'll never be able to reclaim God's peace and joy when you refuse to give that same peace and joy to another. Under the laws of God, all are equal, for each receives what they are willing to give. Now let's take a moment and take a deep couple of breaths. Relax ourselves back to being receptive to this message. And I'll read through one more time out of the Course in Miracles, Circle of Atonement edition. I think that'll help us meditate on this. So let's start by taking a couple of deep breaths, reconnecting with the floor, the surface underneath us that's supporting us, the chair. Remember, we're all connected to this Mother Earth. All of our energy is combined in a great big ball already. But at a personal level, it helps to picture our own energy. And I like to start right in the center. Our spine is where the 7 chakras reside. And each of them, from the base all the way up to the crown of your head, also embody the rainbow of colors. But when you take a rainbow of colors and you use a prism to combine those rainbows, you get white light, pure white light. And we are all pure white light at our deepest form. That is our sustaining form that surpasses everything we see and hear here on this planet. That light inside of you is part of your Holy Spirit, and it extends beyond you, beyond your body, beyond the form. And you're in control of that white light. That white light, being your soul, expands beyond your body. And I'd love for you to picture it enveloping the world. We'll do it slowly, one step at a time. With 3 deep breaths, we're going to pump energy into that light and get it brighter and brighter. So take a nice deep breath, fill up your lungs, let your body expand so that it can take in all the oxygen it needs. And hold that breath once you have a nice deep breath inside of you until I count down. 3, 2, and breathe out slowly with control. A nice long exhale, as long as you can let it slowly come out. Then I want you to take 8 seconds to take a super deep breath. Keep breathing in. 6, 5, 4. Keep breathing in. 2, and hold that breath for my 8-second count. 5, 4, 3, 2, and exhale with control for 8 seconds. Let all the air out of your lungs. And then prepare to take a super deep breath in just a moment. Get it all out first. Okay, one really deep breath. All clean, pure, cool air. Drop your diaphragm. Let your belly expand so your lungs can fill up completely with all the air you can take in. And hold that breath. And let your lungs extract all the oxygen out of that. And when you're ready, let your breath go. Relax your body. Listen to this lesson. God's peace and joy are mine. God's peace and joy are yours. Today we will accept them, knowing they belong to us. And we'll try to understand these gifts increase as we receive them. They're not like the gifts the world can give, in which the giver and loser in which the giver loses as he gives the gift. The taker is not richer by his loss. These are not gifts, but bargains made with guilt. A truly given gift entails no loss. It's impossible that one could gain because another loses. This implies a limit and an insufficiency. No gift is given thus. Such gifts are but a bid for more valuable return, a loan with interest to be paid in full, a temporary lending meant to be a pledge of debt to be repaid with more than was received by him who took the gift. This strange distortion of what giving means pervades all levels of the world you see. It strips all meaning from the gifts you give and leaves you nothing in the ones you take. A major learning goal of this course has set is to reverse your view of giving so you can receive. Giving has become a source of fear, and so you would avoid this, the only means by which you can receive. Accept God's peace and joy, and you will learn a different way of looking at a gift. His gifts will never lessen when they're given away, but they increase in this way. As heaven's peace and joy intensify when you accept them as God's gifts to you, so does the joy of your Creator grow when you accept His joy and peace as yours. True giving is creation. It extends the limitless to the unlimited, eternity to timelessness, and love unto itself. It adds to all that is complete already, not in simple terms of adding more, because that implies it was less before. It adds by letting what cannot contain itself fulfill its aim of giving everything it has away, securing it forever for itself. Today, accept God's peace and joy as yours. Let Him complete Himself as He defines completion. You will understand what completes Him must complete His Son as well. He cannot give through loss, nor can His Son. Receive His gift of joy and peace today, and He will thank you for your gift to Him. Begin today by thinking of those brothers who've been denied by you the peace and joy that are their right under the equal laws of God. Here you denied them to yourself, and here you must return to claim them as your own. Think of your enemies a little while and tell each one as he or she occurs to you, my brother, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. That is the key today. That's the phrase to come back to. Every hour, bless the world. But for everybody that gets in your way, for everybody that yanks your ego's chain and wakes him up, say to that man, woman, child, horse, whatever, my brother, I offer peace and joy to you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. My brother, in this case, could be the glass bowl I dropped in the kitchen before that shattered into a million pieces and went everywhere. That got me into my ego long enough for me to shout an expletive, long enough for me to lose my peace. And I gained it right away. It's no big deal. Enable your brother that same gift of being an inanimate object that just gets you into your ego for a second, so that you realize how quickly you can get out of it. That is our practice. That's what we're here to do, is to try and calm the ego's reactions and let that little part inside of you know there's nothing that can disturb your peace. God's peace and joy are yours. That's the gift you had at birth. Nothing takes them away. But our ego thinks they do. So help that little guy know there's nothing that can take that away. And if it comes from the outside, if you're attacked, my sister, peace and joy I offer you, that I may have God's peace and joy as mine. Whatever it is, if your peace and joy are shuttled away, pause. Take a deep breath. Remember you exist here in this now moment because you are a child of God. As children of God, we have a responsibility. It's our job to bring about heaven on this earth. And that's what I aim to do today. Please join me. And that, my friends, is really the truth. So come back into your body. Shake out these muscles Let's get ready for the day. We've got a Friday in front of us. Easter weekend, a beautiful weekend. All around as springtime starts to spring around here, the early greens of spring are starting to come out and the flowering trees are flowering. This is going to be a wonderful, wonderful day as we take our practice with us throughout the day. Feel free to come back here. The space will be held for you. And I'd love to hear what you guys think, how this is working for you. You guys can say anything whenever you want. There's nothing to interrupt here. We're done with our meditation. We're done with our lesson. We've accomplished great things already today. It's only going to get better from here on.
Thank you, honey. That was beautiful meditation. As always, I want to say something. Good morning, everybody. Well, I just have this idea. Well, idea no, it's just something that I see, a pattern that I have within me that has been with me ever since I have memory. For me, it has been always easier to give than to receive, and that is always like a question that has been with me with the Course in Miracles teachings and things like that. I still haven't found a specific answer, but while Lee was doing the meditation and the reading, of course, it started to come to it started to really like get in order in my mind, because of course giving and receiving are the same thing. So the intent behind the giving is what make you reject or accept the gift from others. So if the content of something that is being given to you comes from the ego, that's when probably you will feel some rejection. I mean, I'm thinking about this because of this. I'm gonna speak clearly here because I'm wandering my mind around concepts, and I'm not speaking clearly in the level of the form. I have been never been a materialistic person. I had enjoyed commodities and yeah, comfort in several parts of my life. In other parts of my life, I haven't gotten anything, and without money, and well, and I never felt in lackness because, well, I had the love of my mom and my sister, and then growing up, I just make myself self-sufficient, and I never experienced like a huge like loss in terms of abundance, because we always connect the concept of receiving in the level of the form with those kind of ideas, right? So I never was attached. I never got attached with the money or the luxury things or those things that could be considered banal. Well, that can be considered like shallow things. So I always wonder if it has to do with me not being so comfortable with receiving. The part of my life that I had with my ex-husband was full with abundance. My ex-husband has a really great ability to manage finances and to manage his wealth in such a great way that really everything around me was yeah, I mean, for me it was luxury. I didn't have a castle, but of course the house that I had there was so beautiful, and I built it with him with my own perspective on things. So it was really like experiencing all the abundance in this form. But when I started to have this urgency to just leave the relationship because it wasn't for me a good thing to have in my life, I always wonder, isn't it that I'm rejecting all my blessings here, because I always look around me and I felt so well taken care in the level of the form, but in the spirit and in the love, I wasn't feeling connected at all. So I look around me and the picture was perfect. I mean, the house, the abundance, I didn't have to worry about money. I could work from home, taking care of my daughter without such a great deal of pressure about my own income. And everything was perfect, but the only thing that didn't fit was my relationship with him. And that was sufficient enough for me to say, no, this is not the life that I want. And the ego grabs that part as well as a way. I mean, it grabs that kind of concepts as well to make you feel like you're doing wrong, because in my mind I was telling myself, well, I need to work this relationship. I need to make this relationship work, because everything is all right. I mean, everything around me is so abundant and so perfect and so great that I need to just really try to have this relationship in a good way. And of course, you cannot force anybody to be in love or love in the way that you want it. So I had to just find my way to accept the things that I cannot change, or change or change myself. And what happened was that I changed myself in a good way, because then I figured out that yes, it was a good thing not to be attached to the level of the form in that part of my life, because I could find the piece of the puzzle in my mind to fix my entire view on things. The lesson of today, it begins with the reverse of your view on giving. So I have been feeling uncomfortable when I receive things, because when they come from the ego, I'm not willing to accept it. I mean, Kurt was really willing to give me a wealthy life. He was really committed to have to have some sort of safe and supporting the level of the form, but he wasn't committed to just explore with me the concepts of love and spirituality, to put ourselves in a different perception of ourselves. And the relationship, in fact, went bad, because he really didn't want it to be committed to that. And when I started to find my way back to the spirituality, that's when he really started to view a change on me. So I don't know if I'm making that much sense, but it is for me a great thing to know now that the compass for you to feel good about giving or receiving is are you being guided, or you are doing this to gain some reward, because it applies for both ways. If you're receiving something because you are playing the game of others, of being supported by the level of the form instead of the strong sense of faith and love and goodness in you, then of course you will be receiving things out of the ego. And if you're receiving things because the person in front of you really, really wants you to be free and be expanded in all your life aspects instead of controlling you, then of course that will be a better situation for you to receive the gift. It's just that within us is like this kind of tool of empathy. And when you are not willing to receive something, it's not that it is bad, it's just that maybe something inside of you is telling you, this comes with something that is not so clear. So maybe that's why sometimes it's hard to receive. When you give, applies the same. When you give, expecting that the other person gives you something back, well, always you will be frustrated because that's not the love of God gives. But if you do things around your relationship just because you just want to spread your kindness, your your light, your love, of course that will be well received and it will have tremendous results in your life. Maybe not in in the same instant that you are giving it, but maybe later. I had never been attached to money and I have always been able to receive money. I never took any job out of the money, but because the learning experience gonna be great, it was gonna be great for my career. So in sometimes in my life I had to just move between jobs without having a better income, and the income got greater in some point. But like, if you're willing to give or receive things only because of the concept of wealth in the level of the form, that's where the ego might be playing its role. And I figured something out here while I was drawing some things in my notebook. It's like, if you think that God is going to come to you to give you the gift, you are not doing the job correctly, because God has always been there. So if you think that God is going to come down to your mind and expand all the light, you will always see the other person with anger, fear, or pain, because you are expecting that the source comes to you instead of you reversing your view and understanding that it's your mind that it's upside down. So you need to put your mind upwards to see God up in everything, in order for you to have a clear view on the other person that is in front of you. So the source has always been here. It's just that we are expecting that the source comes to us and enlightening us, and it's not that. It's your mind that needs to be switched around. Okay? So I wanted to share this. I'm sorry to take that long. I'm having here the signals that I'm taking so long, so I'm sorry. But I wanted to share this because it's really a great lesson. I'm being guided, or I'm trying to gain something as a reward. And the fact is that we need to see the content over the form to see if the content is aligned with the source that we want to look in everything.
Well,
Thank you.
you put it in words for me, actually, because I always wondered, why don't I feel worthy to receive? But it isn't that. It's not that I don't feel worthy to receive. I always felt like receiving was a pressure, because I didn't know if I was going to, how I would react to whatever it was, and would it suffice? Would it satisfy the other person? Um, was there a debt
Like
that
being
I,
dead. Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So thank you.
I think these are good examples of the world as a reflection of me. And if you come from the idea that you give to get, you're going to perceive gifts in that same way, and you're going to believe that they come with expectations, and therefore your expectations will become your own provisional reality. Those we don't really know what was in the mind of the person giving the gift. And the way perception works is, if we believe that they've got an ulterior motive, that's how we will receive the gift. We will say they're trying to get something, and perhaps I'm not willing to give that back because my ego, understand giving is always let's make a deal proposition, and therefore I perceive it to have strings. If someone like God gives us unconditional love and we believe that love is always conditional, that love has to be earned, we will not be able to recognize the unconditional love or the gift as something with no strings attached because our own mind believes that whenever it gives something, it expects something in return. So that's how we view things. So, God's love is unconditional. In regards to, uh, Adriana's example, Kurt uh, may have been trying to provide, and I think a lot of men have this idea, or we do, that you if you love someone, you try and provide everything you can for that person, the material needs, this, perhaps the spiritual needs, but you give what you have, and you give unconditionally. The joy of giving is to see that person happy. But because that other person comes from the egoic perspective that you only give to get, they will see that giving as something, as a hidden agenda. Now, he may not have any agenda at all. His giving might be just because that's what love to him would have you do or have him do. And it's our uh, own perception that I only give to get that colors and taints the gift and gives me a problem with receiving. For myself, I know that it's sometimes, especially in the past, very difficult for me to uh, receive anything. I remember as a young child, young, 12, 13, 14, whenever my memory starts, uh, being in, for the first time in my life, being in someone's house and someone offering to make me a grilled cheese sandwich. And that was a totally mind blowing experience because I could not perceive anybody that had no obligation or duty doing anything for me, let alone someone that had some obligation. So I just tried to get out of there as soon as I could. She was giving because that's what a human maybe does. But I was not able to accept that because of my mindset that no one would give a worthless piece of shit anything. And therefore, I was unable to receive that gift or allow myself to have it because it went against my own internal beliefs. I was the problem, not her. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Because I was definitely coming from that angle. My whole whatever belief or whatever is was that I want when I gave, I wanted to receive as well. I had that expectation, absolutely, and so the whole concept of giving and receiving was very distorted, and yeah, it's so crazy. And this is what a great. There was something else I was going to say about that, but I completely see that. That's it's so good. It's so good.
I'd like to jump in if I may.
Please do.
Um, wow, yeah, this is a really good one. Yeah, Adriana, I really appreciate your sharing because I think our lives were similar in that my ex also was very able to, create abundance, and we lived a life very similar. Like I didn't have to work, I didn't have to worry about money. Um, and the funny thing, I grew up, in a very simple home. I grew up not really having money, but being an only child, um, and the only grandchild, the only niece, I was always showered in abundance because everybody's focus was on me. So they gave me everything they had. in a sense. I had lots of love, lots of support. So um, maybe that type of abundance, maybe it attracted my ex. Um,
Mm.
and but for something shifted for me after I got together with him, that I had so much, I started to feel guilty and unworthy. I don't know when this shift happened because I grew up really not worrying about material. I didn't focus on material things. I didn't really care,
Did
you
it happen
know.
like early in your teens or after you kind of left that Garden of Eden that you were living in?
Well, you know what's interesting? I thought of my home as a garden of Eden when I grew up. Like I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
when I was a little kid, I just thought I lived in this like I had this amazing backyard. Like our backyard faced these bigger houses on the other street, so their backyards were facing our backyard. And it was all these plants and flowers and trees and then my dad garden. So I just like felt like I was in the Garden of Eden and I was just so happy, much of the time. And I think much of the time, of course, I had my ups and downs like any kid, but I never felt a sense of being in lack, really. Um, Except when I went to school at times, because I went to school with kids that I went to a private school, and most of the kids there had money. So, their parents would pull up in fancy cars and things like that. And my dad had a very simple car, and they would tease me about his car. They had like Cadillacs and Lincolns, and he had some kind of beat up thing. I don't know what it was. And I think that's when I started to notice the difference, and as a young person. But fast forward to when I was married, um, I just started to feel this sense of unworthiness. I don't know when that developed, and my ex always gave unconditionally. He still is like that. So, like you were saying, Tom, it was about my mind, about about him giving to me. He always gave because he wanted to give, and he started out even more in a very poor situation. And he grew up in Barbados, and he went barefoot to school, kind of thing. And there were shanties and everything. So he really came from much less than I had growing up. But he just, you know, attracted all this abundance and comfort. And I don't know when it shifted. So it was really about me, about my mind. Um, I'm just glad that I'm able to see that now and looking back and understand it. And this lesson is so helpful so I don't go back into that idea of being
Mm.
unworthy. Um, and I would say because I've always was the recipient of so much, I just started feeling guilty when I look around at other people who I knew. I had just so much more than some people, and I thought, well, maybe why am I the one getting all this? Why don't they have what I have? Um, and that's shifted now, but and so giving was not always as natural for me as some people. And I started to develop, well, this belief that if I gave, kind of like the breath holding I was talking about the other day, like I was like holding back giving, and not so much material things, but I guess of my time and my love to people. So I would always hold back that from people. I don't know what that was about. I still have to think about that a little bit.
Mm.
Not that I want to attract it again, but it's always nice to analyze why you did things sometimes because it
Hmm. From
helps
an
you not.
educational perspective, don't take it personally.
Right, right. Just so not to fall in that pitfall again. I don't think I will, thanks to Course in Miracles, but
Yeah.
it's always nice to think about, oh, that was interesting that I was holding back, holding my breath, holding my love, and afraid that if I give, that, wow, I won't get back that same love, or I might lose it. I might lose them, um,
I
also.
find that holding breath, that fear thing can bring me right back to this lesson of the day.
Oh,
There's
for sure.
something that I need to come back and say, my brother, my thing, my sister, whatever, the thing that prompted that thought of me holding my breath, that's what I need to offer peace and joy to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have it now, you know what I mean? But I still find it fascinating that I was
Yeah.
doing these things. And now this lesson makes me think of the infinity symbol. Um,
Yeah,
you
it's right
know?
there. There's a diagram that we've been working on. Me and Adriana working on a diagram, and the
Oh, how do you
infinity
like
symbol is
that?
right there too. So the
Yes.
basis of it was as we're looking outward and we're judging with our ego, we see fear and anger and pain. The person on the other side looks like a god, like they're the one doing all the right stuff. That's my kind of typical looking at the world in an upside down fashion. And a
Mm,
good metaphor is either looking in a mirror and seeing the reverse, or remembering that our eyes actually perceive the world upside down. That's what's on the back of our retinas, right? The lenses transform it, but our brains know what's going on, and our brains can figure it out still. So imagine choosing rather than recognizing fear, anger, pain, that we come back to the peace and joy that God's offering us. And that is what
right,
fills us up and
right.
helps us point up. And then in the other person, we can see our own reflection of God coming through us. And that's the thing that brings us back in to the present moment, into the now moment, and lets our souls respond in the right way, coming from a
Yes,
deeper level. Yeah,
absolutely. And then the whole giving and receiving, I guess I was looking at the infinity as the giving and receiving on either
yeah,
end. And there's this constant flow of giving and where there's really no end to it. There's no lack of it because it is complete. There's everything. There's no lack in that. Um, so yeah, really beautiful lesson. Thank you so much.
Yes.
thanks, Janine.
Good God morning, everyone. May I speak?
Morning, Rosa.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Rosa. Pull that phone closer to your
So
mouth.
in the course, it says God's joy and peace are
It
mine.
sounds like your phone's wrapped up in a t-shirt or something.
Oh,
Is the
really? No,
microphone?
I have my Bluetooth on, so you can't hear me. So let me remove that and speak.
Thank you, ma'am.
Can you hear me now?
Much better. Thank you so much.
Wait a minute. Am I better?
Yes, it's
Yes,
perfect.
yes.
Thank you, Rosa.
That's good because I can't hear you. But anyway,
No,
um,
those Bluetooths, man. Those Bluetooth. Just
Well,
it's all right. Look, let me say this. You know, in the course, it says giving is the same as receiving. There are no separations in anything. And I think a lot of times what we feel is a lack of. There are some people who feel if I give this, then I'm going to lose something. There's always a give and take. But in reality, there is no such thing as give and take. So some of us, like me, I've always been a giver. I had to learn how to be a receiver because I gave unconditionally. I never gave expecting anything back. My father taught me years ago, especially about money. If you give from your pot of wealth. You don't give from things that you need. Like, suppose I have $100. I need to go grocery shopping. I'm not going to give you my whole $100, but I may give you 50 or 25. And that's cool. That's all right. I don't have to give from my emptiness. I give from my fullness. But do I receive in that same fashion? You know, and receiving is something that could be the littlest thing as, may I get you a glass of water? And somebody may be, you may be standing right there at the refrigerator or the faucet. You can get your own water, but somebody is offered to get the water for you. Say yes, because they're offering you something that they want you to have. You know, they want to be helpful to you. And we don't even know how to receive. I had, when I was growing up, I had the experience of all worlds. I had the experience of wealth. I had the experience of poverty. I had the experience of a lot of love. I had the experience of no love. I mean, And it was coming at to me in all kinds of fashions from all kinds of people because I lived with my family the whole time I was growing up. I was always in somebody else's house. I had to learn how to equalize that with my giving and my receiving because nothing comes from lack. Nothing. There is no lack. If somebody gives me, I'm not even thinking about where they're getting it from. I could care less. The mere fact that you give it to me is a blessing in itself. And I can say, "Oh no, don't do that. It's all right. I'm going to be all right." The truth is, if the universe sees that I need something and it presents it to me, I should say yes because I understand that God is always giving. And even though it might be given through a person, that's the person's God giving you that. So we have to learn how to balance all of our ego thoughts. You know, today's message from Marianne Williams says, "What we give, we will receive, and what we withhold will be withheld from us." The universe will always support our integrity. And that word integrity hit me because the intention, why are you giving? And maybe that's a question that you should ask that person who's giving you whatever it is. Why did you do that? And you might be surprised at the answer. If there's a question, I kind of like have gotten to the point where I don't question the universe anymore. I've been asking, in my situation, for God to show me the truth in this situation. I'm in, like I said, a household that really doesn't set well with spiritual stuff. Period. I mean, they're Christians, yes, but spirituality they see is something totally different. And to me, it's the same. And if it's not the same, then something's wrong with you. And I can't question that. I just ask God to show you the truth, and eventually it will come. Um, Giving and receiving
Receiving is not
it is
taking away
definitely
anything.
defined by one's
So
ego.
Rosa,
So
you're a
I
piece of
know
work.
that God is always giving, and it's just the receiving part that I had to work on. And even now, and I have to, because my aunt wants to give me her gold jewelry. My aunt wants to give me these clothes, and you know, I'm like, why? I don't really need it, but this is what she wants to do. So say yes, Rosa. And even if you don't take it home with you, or even just say yes right now, right then, right there, and be all right with it. Because there's no difference between giving and receiving. If you're a giver and you're not receiving it, it's because you're blocking it. It's your ego that's blocking it. You think you can do all things by yourself. We are not in this world alone, period. And the universe knows our needs sometimes even before we do. So it gives us, with all its understanding, it wants to make us feel good. All we have to do is open ourselves to give and receive. And that's me. That's it. I'm complete. I'm going to put my earphone back in because I can't hear a thing you're saying.
Rosa, you're a piece of work. I've got some thoughts about this too, and I think we're all looking at it very well. Um, when I was a little kid, if you can picture somebody's baseball sliding into second base or something, he hits the base with his knees or something, he's sliding. When I would go to see my grandmother when I was a little kid, we would go in the elevator, we'd get to the room, and we open up her apartment, and my brother and I would race to the couch that was across the room, and we would slide into it just like second base because we always knew that under that couch, when we came to visit her, There's going to be presents for us. Whoever got there first got the first gift. I can't even remember at this point whether we had names on them or not. But my brother was only 11 months younger than I am, so it didn't make a whole lot of difference. So we just took it for granted that we were going to get that, and all we had to do was go and receive it. And it was nice. It was always great to go see. Oh my, that's what we called it. Receiving something graciously is sometimes a problem if we're not in the right mindset. And graciously means with grace, and it means understanding that the person is giving us something from his bounty, or maybe not, but he wants me to have it anyway, or she wants me to have it anyway. It's my job to receive it with the same happiness that she was giving it or he was giving it. Some people, when you give them something, they say, "Oh, you shouldn't have." Think about that. That
Yeah,
doesn't make
I do
sense in light
that.
of
I do
today's
that a
lesson.
lot.
Right.
Oh, you
Oh,
shouldn't do that. That's so fine, but you shouldn't do it.
you shouldn't have done it. You shouldn't have done it as if it's, too much of a stress. That's not my business. That's his or her business. So I don't do that. One other thought about giving and receiving. In the time that I was in Liberia a couple of weeks ago, whenever I would come into a new community, we would talk, my partner and I, and then they usually gave some kind of gift. Well, it turns out when I came to understand this more, it was that this was extremely important. In fact, they were giving the gift before we gave what we came to give them. In other words, we told them what we were going to be giving them. But when we were finished talking, they gave us a gift, me in this case. And the gifts were really nice. There was one gift that I had no idea what to do. And I just saw a picture yesterday of me receiving that gift. And it probably wasn't very gracious of me because I had no idea what to do with it. Think about this yourself. If you're in a position, you go into a foreign country, and they do something that they think is quite normal and just right up, that's what people do. It's one thing, but I stood there. They gave me a baby goat. I'm not talking about a doll. It was a goat. And they put it in my hands, and here is this thing making its sound that we all know. And I was flabbergasted. I really couldn't handle it. I didn't handle it very well. Um, I found out afterwards that yeah, thank you, Lee. That's what it sounded like. Um,
That was really
that
good.
that that they knew that the people I came with, Vernell, knew that I was going to get a goat, but they didn't warn me. And
I bet that was entertaining as hell to her now. Peek out
yeah,
your goat.
probably was. It was like, what the hell am I going to do with a goat?
I
I'm
can just
here for
imagine
5
him. I
days and I'm
wonder what the
flying
hell this
back.
guy's gonna do with his goat.
He had it all figured out already. He told me afterwards because we went to see his grandfather that night. And the only thing I knew about his grandfather was I had seen a video of his grandfather praying with Vernell, my partner. And I thought he was just speaking a foreign language, which in a sense he was, because the way he was praying, he was just speaking in tongues, but I didn't get that. So I thought he didn't speak English very well. found that out. But we gave the goat to his grandfather who lives there and knew what to do with it. They were going to have soup another day or two and a really nice meat. And it, but I didn't get that. It's not my way. It didn't fit into any paradigm that I had ever been involved in. Um, there was a really live goat, and it still is amazing to me that it happened. Even that didn't they understand that I have no clue what to do with this? That's what went through my mind. But that's not a gracious receiving, is it? And I did my best to keep a smile on my face, but it was a little bit of a strain. And
Dad, I know the position you were in.
I
I
know, and
really do.
I think the
They
others.
gave you a gift so that you would have the gift that you needed to give to the next situation. It's a cascade of gifts as you go around. This happened to me when I was down in the Amazon. I met with some indigenous people. They had a
Hmm.
special drink that I had to drink. Do you remember this, Dad?
No, I
The
don't.
drink the drink is a fermented drink that the chief gives visitors. And I was 14, but with a group of women. And we're all teachers. And since I was the only male, the chief had me sit down and drink this fermented drink. Now, this fermented drink is made by a bunch of old ladies chewing up leaves and spitting, and then they let it sit in the sun. A bunch of old ladies chew up some leaves and they spit in this same big jar, and then they let that stuff ferment for weeks. And the tour guide had explained all of this to me, and then
Beforehand?
beforehand, and then sat me down in front of the chief and said, if you don't drink this, they'll be insulted and they're going to chase us out of here. And so, me as a 14-year-old accepted the gift as graciously as I could and spit it in the bushes on the way out. That's the
Wow.
best I could do.
Wow.
So I know it's tough to get gifts sometimes that you don't expect.
Now I understand so many things.
Well, well, there's a phrase we use. I got your goat, and that was the only thing that came to mind at the time.
I'm really happy Vernell's grandfather got the goat, or father, or
Oh,
somebody,
he was
somebody
thrilled.
who got the goat that could know what to do with the goat. It's
Yeah, I
wonderful.
mean that was something they knew exactly right. You are exactly right, and I did my best. I put my best face on that I was able to. Maybe it wasn't perfect. I don't know. I don't really. It doesn't matter at this point. But it was something that I didn't expect, and um, the, up until that point, it was a shirt or the robe or something like that. This was really different, and after that, I was ready to, I was kind of open to the whole idea that that is what they do. And that goat has a certain real value to them. And they gave it to me. So I have to, I have to be happy about that. One other thing was that when I was a kid, I was given an allowance. And that was what was considered normal. I have found out since then that that's not always normal, that that kids get allowance when they have done their chores. And I think that that particular practice that my parents had, whether they had lots of money or just a little bit, was probably more godly than tit for tat, so to speak. Or you do your chores, then you get your allowance, or in other words, your salary for having done something. And what we're learning here in this lesson is that there is abundance everywhere. Even though we may not think so, it's there. I'm certainly looking at a land of abundance right now, which has been inaccessible to the people to whom it was freely given. They were brought or grew up indigenously in Liberia, and they do have a great abundance. And our job is to be a kind of a can opener to open that up for them so that they can they can enjoy the abundance that they were given. And it's in that spirit that I continue to work with them, because I see this as a completely amazing godly miracle that um, I've been fortunate really to be a part of. There are many things that people will tell me, make sure they're paying you, make sure you send them a bill, and all of these kinds of things, which are important, but they're not as important as kind of enjoying the spirit in which things are happening in front of me, which is mind-boggling in some cases. Getting used to living in a miraculous world is what this book is all about, and it's what my life is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Beautiful experience with the goats. No, but really, it is funny to hear you say all those things, because those are really the gifts of your experience for us. The adventure that you had there is not, I mean, the greatest miracle might not be, or whatever, to bring this new wealthy perception for these people, but might be just for you to really see the small things in your process and share it with us. For me, was really a huge laugh, and that is for me really, really a treasure. Every time that I get to laugh like out loud, for me it's really feeling the feeling the peace
Yeah,
of God
like
inside.
Lee's little goat sound, that was appreciated.
Yeah, totally. Totally, totally. This really is a good lesson. I mean, God's peace and joy are mine. And you are teaching us, Bob, that whatever it is, your goal, your ultimate goal will be with this, it will be filled with joy and peace. Because all of those little details that you're experiencing yourself, you're putting yourself in such a different environment, that you get to share with us those stories that makes us laugh, at least. And that is really something that I can appreciate for myself. So how about if we start to close the conversation? If anybody wants to share anything else or come, oh, there it is, Kayam. Well, Kayam, we are in the lesson 105. What? He has been all the time here? Ah, I didn't saw it. Didn't see it. Sorry. See him. So if anybody wants to share something else, you can raise your hand, or we can move forward with our day. The intent behind your giving is really what matters. The content over the form. It doesn't matter if it is a rose, it doesn't matter if it is a car. The content of your giving is what matters. Where is it coming from? From a guided perspective of to gain some reward instead. And that applies in receiving as well. It's funny now that I think about this, because my ex-husband was really very good managing our finances and creating this abundance. But whenever I wanted to give him something, he never received it with a happy perception. He always, I mean, I couldn't ever give him a gift. Every time that I bought a gift for him, I give to him, he was really like mad of receiving the gift. And he always said to me, and what is this for? This is not for me. And I was saying, yes, of course. Now, this is something. How much does it? How much did it cost? And I was like, oh my God, that doesn't come from your money. It's coming from my money. Why do you ask me how much it cost?
Well, you
And
just
so,
made me laugh out loud.
yeah, yeah, he always did that, and I was really always so mad because I had to even return things because he just didn't thought that he could do anything with it, or it costed something that he didn't agree. So I always got mad, and I took back the gift and or whatever. And or sometimes I said to him, well, you can do whatever you want with it, give it away to somebody else. But it wasn't impossible for me to give him a gift because it was always like a rejection in front of me. So I don't know, it's funny. It's funny. And of course that has to do about me as well. I mean, when I perceive him in this way, I know that it has to do with me as well. But well, this is what it is. So we have to reverse our view on giving, because giving is receiving, and receiving is not taking away anything. Receiving
And
is
God's peace and
living that,
joy are
yeah,
mine.
and mine, exactly.
I think that it's difficult for us to receive a lot of times because we uh, feel that we're just uh, not worthy either. We're kind of like the prodigal son that doesn't realize that we are somebody's treasure, or we are God's treasure, and that unconditional love just pours out and comes, and uh, it needs something uh, from the standpoint that it wants us to accept it. And I know every morning I don't ask to uh, that God sends me love. I ask, let me be willing to accept it, because it's my refusal to accept that gift and to see it as uh, unconditional, receiving it, and uh, prevents me from realizing that I am that person's treasure. You know, if you want, they need other people to receive that help. And we need to kind of like you were saying about Kurt, uh, and I've got the same problem. Just saying, well, I don't really need anything, therefore you have nothing. You know, you don't need to give me anything, but I don't expect anything. And we need to be kind of like Bob with the goat situation, or better probably Lee with the drink situation, and say, yes, I will take that, because really, when we don't do that, we don't give them the opportunity to demonstrate what they perceive to be what love would have them do. Thank you.
It's like the I don't know if it's a parable, or when Jesus is being I mean, Mary Magdalene is putting her perfume or her oil in her feet, and Judas is in one side telling Jesus, why is she pouring this in your feet? That is expensive. We can use that to feed the poor, or do something to spread the word, because it is very valuable. And Jesus said to him, let her do it, because that's her way to show the love, or something. I don't have the specific words, but it's exactly that Jesus part of the Bible thing, that it doesn't matter if for you it is expensive, not expensive, useful, not useful. It's just a gift. It seems like Course in Miracles really is a course on saying yes. Saying yes, I will. Yes, I can accept that. Even if I don't know what to do with it, something will come out of something will be done with it. So, um, well, it is a good lesson, this one today. For me, it was a joyful one. So thank you very much, everybody, for sharing all the things that you're sharing, and just hanging around with this laugh of today's anecdote with the goat.
And thank you, Adriana, and everybody. And one more thing I want to add, it definitely shifts my perspective about business. Um, in my business, I think I've shared that I'm in real estate. And I think sometimes it's harder to see this whole giving and receiving in business sometimes, because it seems very, in the world, and involving ego, but we can shift it and look at it as that it all does come from spirit. When you look at everything, is coming from the Holy Spirit. Even money and the opportunity to flow money, which creates opportunities for people and goods and all this. It's still in that same flow. I have a contractor who if went to the story of how I met him, it had to be God in it because it was such a convoluted, at least in my vision, it was convoluted the way I met him. But he is the most giving, I mean, over the top guy I've ever met. He will work. He's at one of my flips now. He will stay there all night and work. And it just, but it gives him joy to work. And I'm thinking, oh my, why is this guy working so hard? Like he just, I mean, he'll stay up late, he'll be in pain, like his body will hurt, and he'll get some rest, but he's back at it the next day. And it gives him joy to give to me and do the work. And the more I praise him, it just makes him so happy. And um I see everything differently now in business. I've been seeing it differently, but this lesson is particularly helpful in that. So that's all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, in business is where you most when you have the most opportunities of practicing it. When I was working in the corporate world, I always could test this every single time with the teams that I had to lead. Whenever the teams felt heard, felt understood, and felt like taking taking I mean, yeah, part of the creative process, they will really improve their performance within the entire teamwork. So, in order for them to be receiving that kind of understanding or that kind of um, uh, attention, I have to give them the opportunity to perceive my position not as one in the top level, but as they are. I mean, I remember so many situations with people that felt like really down below in the food chain of the corporate world. And when you just grab them and show them the importance of their work within the entire change of actions to succeed in something that the entire team has to succeed, that is when they really realize that they are a gift inside of the team and their performance will always be uplifted. If you if you have somebody that you think, I mean, the janitor in a corporation, he does really one of the most important things in an organization, and they always feel like they are not noticed, or they are small people within the the corporate world or whatever, but they are important. So whenever you give the gift of sharing the importance of what they are doing in the common and normal and regular things, they will show you how great they can do, how much great things they can do, even if it is small tasks. So it's really a good thing for practice in business. Giving is receiving, or receiving is giving as well. Accepting the knowledge from others, even if they are below in your command man or whatever. I don't know how to say it well, but it's really there's always opportunities there to practice it. But in the corporate world, it's where you most have those. So
You know what I'm taking from this lesson right now? Um, Anyone to correct me if they want to, and I know no one's wrong, no one's right, but I always like to be enlightened more. So, what I'm taking from this, taking and giving, um, is the fact that we all want to feel as if we've contributed to and been valuable in this life.
Acknowledge was the word that I was trying to find. Yes.
Yeah, and then when we do this lesson, we realize that we absolutely are. So we don't have to even wonder or feel like we need to be acknowledged even or feel like we're valuable when we know we've already been contributing and we've already been giving and we've already been receiving, and it's inevitable. That's what life is, period. There's like, so is there really? So then it makes me think, yeah, so there is no giving and receiving. This is life itself. And so no one owes us anything. We don't owe anybody anything, but it's all like, yeah, so there's no, yeah, it just put like this whole perspective on this whole thing, that that it's happening. It's always been happening. It always will happen. There's nothing to any to like try to reconcile with the idea of not being valuable. Like there's no way that I'm not valuable now with this lesson. I understand that there's no way that any of my contribution has gone unheard, or no way, absolutely no way, or even to be in existence. It's valuable as everyone, you know what I mean? Like we don't have to, yeah. It's just sort of like interesting how I
Yeah, it
for
is. It is. I
myself
mean,
what I receive.
I know for sure what that you mean is that. I mean, you are a part of this entire source, so you wouldn't even have the need to acknowledge. But as we
Yeah.
sometimes don't acknowledge the presence of God, what we do when we acknowledge the work of somebody else, or your own participation in somebody else's process or whatever, is that we are remembering God.
And
Yeah,
there's one more,
hear
and there's
this.
one more thing, because right now I'm looking at the title of today's lesson, and I was just thinking about this while you were saying what you said, both of you. God's peace and joy are mine. And I know I said right here a couple of days ago that God's peace of mind is the most important thing I can ask for. It's the peace of mind, clarity, and how things fit in. Everybody's in the place that they're supposed to be as far as today is concerned. But if I'm giving, then I also know that this is mine. And neither of those things cost me one penny. And yet that peace is what I want the most. So what does that tell us? It tells me that if I am a giving person, with every person, no matter who they are, if I give peace and joy in any way, if I can make them laugh, if I give them some peace of mind, some thought, it doesn't cost me anything. I still have it, and I give it to them. The things that are important to me are these things. All of the other things are just expressions that will cost me a certain amount of money at the time. But if I'm in that spirit, it will not be a problem ever. I'll have that peace of mind that I want, and I do have it. I do have it. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
great.
remembrance. It's a remembrance and confirmation that we are peace and we are joy, and everything that was laid on top of that, you know, is not so, or whatever. And then we don't have to look for peace and joy. It already is, because that's what we are. So it's just that confirmation.
Amen.
Yes, Andy, that's right. So, as the
Thank you,
pilot is
everybody.
making something, okay, yeah, yeah, there he goes.
The wonderful time you've spent with us. It's about 8:30, and after a couple of hours here, I give us at least an opportunity to move on. Looks like just about everybody's moved on from the Zoom meeting. All right, so we'll get rid of that, and I'll wish you all a wonderful, wonderful day. God's peace and joy are yours. God's peace and joy are mine. Today's workbook lesson 105. Please keep it with you throughout the day. Come back and listen to the meditation again if it's helpful. But once an hour, as the hour changes, try and remember God's already given you the gifts. You just have to open your eyes and see them.